Senator Marielle Smith.
Thank you, Acting Deputy President. I too rise to speak on this matter of urgency submitted by the Greens. And to some extent I agree. It is urgent we have a discussion on housing policy in this country, because the alliance we have seen form between the Greens political party and the opposition in this chamber has had what I believe to be a disastrous impact on the ambition of this government to advance housing policy in Australia. We've seen the Greens and the opposition team up to stand in the way of the Housing Australia Future Fund, the single biggest investment in social and affordable housing in more than a decade, which the Greens party delayed for 6 months to keep campaigning on housing affordability rather than trying to fix it. We've seen this alliance team up to stand in the way of Help to Buy, a national shared equity scheme designed to help more Australians into home ownership, which the Greens have voted against in the other place, which have been delayed for 4 months so far. And now we're seeing this alliance of the opposition and the Greens standing in the way of more help for renters by holding up build to rent. Time after time, as our government, which is determined to do meaningful policy reform to address housing supply in Australia, time after time, our efforts have been hampered by this alliance of the opposition and the Greens in this chamber. Time after time, as we've brought measures to increase supply to this chamber, the Greens have stood in the way of it, and they've been joined by the opposition. So let's be clear. The motion we have before us does not deliver another home in Australia. It does absolutely nothing to ease the cost of houses for Australians. It does absolutely nothing to assist Australians with the cost of their rent. This is just another political stunt on the floor of this place which delivers nothing in the real world, which delivers nothing for the people in Australia who are desperately seeking action on housing supply, who are desperately seeking for help with rent, who are desperately seeking to be able to afford to buy their own home. Time and time again we have seen the only party in this place actually bring anything to this chamber which would make a difference on housing supply is the Australian Labor Party. And we have seen time and time again the major roadblock to that being the alliance between the Greens and the Liberals, the Greens and the opposition party in this place. The fact is, when it comes to housing, we have a supply issue in this country, and that is what our government is solely determined on addressing. And we know this is having an impact on young Australians in particular. It is millennials, my generation, and the generations younger than them who feel most let down and locked out by the issues in housing supply in Australia. It is our generation who feels like this dream, this aspiration is beyond them. And it is them who need us to do something in this place to have a meaningful impact and take meaningful action on addressing supply, so that they too can own a home. So that isn't just an aspiration or a dream of their parents' generation, that is something they can hold. And we have the Greens political party in this place constantly come in here and prevent meaningful action, meaningful reform, or delay that reform because it suits their political agenda and their political purpose of the day. But you don't get more houses in Australia through memes. You don't get more houses in Australia through motions on the floor of this place which don't deliver legislative change, which don't increase funding, which don't do anything to enact agreements made by National Cabinet which would actually deliver houses. And from the opposition's perspective, I also fundamentally reject the idea that young Australians, millennial Australians and the generations who come after have to make a choice between a dignified retirement through superannuation and owning a home. I reject that containment of aspiration for millennial Australians, for Gen Y Australians. It is not what their parents were told, and it's not what they should be told either. Every young Australian deserves to have the aspiration to have a home, a safe and secure home, and the Australian Labor Party is the only party in this place doing anything that will deliver that for them. The Liberals want to contain the aspirations of young Australians. The Greens think they can meet that aspiration through memes. Frankly, I believe those two positions are absurd. What's urgent is getting the Labor government's reforms on housing through this chamber. That will make a difference on housing supply.
Senator David Pocock.
Thank you, Acting Deputy President. I thank